Hi, friends. How are you? Still digesting losing who I considered my favorite Canadian artist of all time, Myles Goodwyn. It's been an interesting. It's interesting when you lose someone that you respect so much musically. It's a big thing. I mean, the video that we released yesterday received a lot of love from a lot of people. It's amazing how we meant it. I'm just checking out all my lights here. There we go. Should have checked this before we got on, but we need a little bit more time before people come on. I did this thing which Myles really appreciated a few years ago. I put it on. He shared it on the April Wine site, which was really, really nice. The top 25 April Wine songs of all time. This was based, and back then we were doing a lot of voting software. We would encourage you, the listener, the fans, to come on and vote. We did this for Emerson, Lake and Palmer when Keith Emerson died. We did it a few times, and we'll present this to you again. It's already on the internet on our sister channel, but there was a few changes, a few mistakes in it, and we decided we'd fix it up a little bit. So just for the folks who are waiting for it, there's a lot of production in this top 25 we're about to show you. This thing took like 3 weeks to do. Back then, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had to make it seem like I knew what I was doing. So I put a lot of work into it. Back then, I used to work on a software called Magic. And now I work at Final Cut Pro on Apple. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to come on, and I hope you appreciate the quality of the video. Let me just see if I can put this up. I've got some pictures I want to show you first. Just give me a second. This is me in April Wine. Oh, I don't know why it's not coming up. There. That's in 2000 when I met the band April Wine. We'll show you the top 25 in a second. We're just waiting for a few more people to come on. Of course, on the top left, it's me and Myles Goodwyn. Myles was still, I think, dealing with his drinking problem at the time. So he didn't want to do the interview, but he did it. He gave me a good interview. Jerry Mercer is their drummer. On the top right-hand side, Jim Clench, who we lost a few years ago, was their bass player, right up until Stand Back. And he left by the time The Whole World's Going Crazy came out. And then Brian Greenway on the bottom right, he's the guy who gave me tickets to the show. Brian's a really, really nice guy. And just before we get going, I'm just going to show you a few more pictures before I show you the production. Anyone who knows The Whole World's Going Crazy, and that's the album on the bottom right hand, knows the Mad Hatter. I did this out of, and I am a huge April Wine fan, just so that if anyone's, I love, this is my favorite Canadian band of all time. We're going to get to the top 25 in a second. But I made this Mad Hatter when I was doing the top 25. I thought I would start, because I used to do a lot of clay stuff when I was growing up. I thought I'd do it. Here's another angle of this. Hold on. There he is again. It's the Mad Hatter I made. I still have it. A few people have asked me if I could sell it to them. But anyway, there you go. And going back to this, here's me in April Wine. Myles Goodwyn on the top. And I appreciate, Cape Rayer 23 says, rest in peace, Myles Goodwyn. We lost a hell of a vocalist and a great writer. There's an interview there's two things we're doing today concerning Myles Goodwyn. Let me just put this down. There's two more things we're going to do. There's an interview from 1988 that my friend Steve Burgess did with Myles Goodwyn, and we're going to present that. He talks about his favorite era of April Wine, and you might be surprised that it's not this era. So all four of them, Myles signed it here, Jerry Mercer, Brian Greenway, Jim Clench, they signed these albums for me. This was the biggest April Wine album. It's too much glare here. Anyway, and then another one that I love, this is a nice album that led up to Nature of the Beast, Harder, Faster. That was, I do believe, filmed in Ottawa. First Glance is the first one with Brian Greenway. And as Myles Goodwyn says in the interview you're about to see later on this afternoon, basically listen to because it was an audio interview back then with Steve Burgess, where that he says it was called First Glance because they were going harder and Brian Greenway had joined the band, and it sort of gave the band a different flavor. So that's one of the reasons they called this album First Glance, which had Roller, which was a big breakthrough, Live at the El Mocambo, where the four of them signed this as well, where they were opening for the Rolling Stones at the El Mocambo Ballroom in Toronto. This was supposed to be an April Wine or Myles Goodwyn solo album, but the record company basically wanted an April Wine album, so that's what it. Forever for Now was a single. You Won't Dance With Me, which was meant to be sort of an Everly Brothers song, which was written, by the way, off this album when Myles Goodwyn was 17 years old. The Whole World's Going Crazy was the follow-up to Stand Back. It's a great album. Give Me Love, the first song. Oh, great. Myles Goodwyn's favorite era of April Wine right here. Stand Back. Almost every song on this album, and we'll get to the top 25 in a second, it's a whole production. The top 25 is a whole production. But Ooh What a Night was a huge hit. Don't Push Me Around, lots of airplay. Come Hear the Band, airplay. Slowpoke, not necessarily because it was sort of a novelty song. I Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love was a hit. Not for You, Not for Rock and Roll. So many people played that song. Tonight Is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love. Crazy. Many consider this to be the best April Wine album. And you're going to see the cannon blow up on the production that's about to come up here. Again, I did so much production for the top 25. It was insane. One of the greatest live albums of all time. Love this. And then some consider Electric Jewels their best album. Even though Brian Greenway signed this album, he wasn't on it. Jerry Mercer had just joined the band. And there you go. We're about to play you the top 25 April Wine songs of all time based on a vote that we had. This is probably the most popular April Wine picture, I think, of all time. It's certainly one of the best. So let's do a little tribute to Myles Goodwyn. This is something I put together a few years ago. Stream quality's been lowered. Sorry, guys. Sad day, we lost a legend from Ace Larson. This is the top 25 April Wine songs of all time. I was hoping more people would come on because of, a tribute to Myles, but we're going to play it. We might play it a couple of times, but here it is, top 25 April Wine songs, based on a poll that we did, and I'll talk about, even though I talk fast on this, about how we put this all together.
Led by Myles Goodwyn, the group always had multiple personalities. They were a rock band that could produce some of the most gorgeous love ballads, who came up with some of the best driving tunes ever to come out of Canada. They were also very prolific and successful, charting a top 40 hit at least once a year from 1971 until 1982. In all, April Wine had 21 top 40 singles. We'll talk about their albums in our next video in a couple of weeks, the top April Wine albums of all time. We did this poll last year and received 11,145 votes. So thanks to everyone who voted. Number 25, from the platinum album of the same name, The Whole World's Going Crazy, which went number 1 in Canada. It was their 5th album and the first Canadian release in history to have platinum advanced sales orders. Like its namesake, it was a crazy little tune with sped up vocals in the chorus that sounded very much like a guest appearance from the guy on the cover, the Mad Hatter. It peaked at number 5 on the charts. Number 24, their very first hit from 1971 and the self-titled album. Their first recording incarnation included Myles Goodwyn on vocals and guitar, and 3 from the Henman family, brothers David on vocals and guitar, Richie on drums, plus cousin Jim on vocals, guitar, and bass. It's the only track on the countdown from that debut album, or the Foot album, or Feet as some people call it, and it's the only project with that specific lineup of April Wine. Number 23, from 1985, and Walk Through Fire. It was their first album without longtime April Wine drummer Jerry Mercer, also absent Gary Moffat. Steve Lang was also gone, who, by the way, we lost in February 2017 at the age of 67. Lang was brought in to replace Jim Clench in 1976. The album did chart in Canada, and this tune was not a top 40 hit, but we had 199 fans voting for Love Has Remembered Me. 22 just like that from the 1973 classic album Electric Jewels. The band was really starting to form a sound. This was not a hit single, but it might as well have been, since it got airplay across the country. This project featured the best example of that 1-2 punch of two strong vocalists, Myles Goodwyn and late great bassist Jim Clench, who we lost in November 2010. As well as sharing the vocals, they also shared songwriting duties on the album. Number 21. This could be the right one from 1984 and Animal Grace. It was a single but didn't reach the top 40, but remains a fan favorite, receiving 223 votes out of our 11,145. It was also the last single to feature the golden era April Wine lineup: Myles Goodwyn, Brian Greenway, Gary Moffat, Steve Lang, and Jerry Mercer. Number 20, a lost Elton John Bernie Taupin tune. That was the B-side of his single Border Song from his second album. It would later appear on Elton's live 17/11/70 album. But to many Canadian fans, Bad Side of the Moon was an April Wine tune, since Elton's version was not that well known. It's from their 1972 project On Record, and it peaked at number 16 on the chart. Number 19, fast forward to 1982 and April Wine's follow-up to their biggest selling album worldwide, Nature of the Beast, which was released the year before. Enough is Enough from Power Play reached number 8, and the album went platinum in Canada. Number 18, the first of 5 tracks from 1975's classic Stand Back. Don't Push Me Around. There have been a few logo-worthy trademark items in the April Wine family. That red sparkle Goya guitar on the cover of Electric Jewels. Of course, the Mad Hatter on the cover of The Whole World's Going Crazy. The guitar-shredding lion on the cover of Nature of the Beast. And the famous cannon, which is on the cover of Stand Back. And like the Mad Hatter, made it on stage during April Wine shows. Number 17, Lady Run, Lady Hide from 1973 and Electric Jewels. As good as this record is, it really was the tip of the iceberg for the band's popularity. Electric Jewels had 3 singles: Weeping Widow, which by the way is coming up on our countdown, the title song, and Lady Run, Lady Hide. Being the only hit on this project, he peaked at number 19 on the Canadian charts. 16, Come Hear the Band from 1975 and the double platinum Stand Back album. This was the first of a few major phenomenons for this band. Even though that Lennon-McCartney songwriting partnership between Goodwin and Clench that worked so well on Electric Jewels broke down during the recording of this album, and in the end, Stand Back would be the only April Wine album with the most hits at 4. Number 15, You Won't Dance With Me from 1977 and the Forever For Now album. The number 6 hit received 277 votes. It was also their biggest selling single. And the tune came to that 50 sound naturally, since Myles Goodwyn originally wanted the album to be a solo project and wanted to tip his hat to his earlier musical heroes like Buddy Holly and the Everly Brothers. But unfortunately, the band really couldn't take a break financially. So Forever For Now became an April Wine album. You Won't Dance With Me is the only tune from this project, which had many varied sounds which somehow seemed to work on our top 25. Number 14, Drop Your Guns. We go to the second album from 1972, On Record. It was a number 34 hit from a number 35 album. The riff from the tune was inspired by Shine On by Humble Pie. And Drop Your Guns had that anthem feel that still sounds amazing in concert today. It's another great example of how April Wine songs have really stood the test of time. This one was written by guitarist David Hedman. Number 13, I'm on Fire For You Baby. A single release from 1974. It's another one of those very few songs not written by the band. That's in our top 25. There was also a live version released from their simply titled Live album from 1974. Number 12, Weeping Widow from 1973. It's the song that opens the album Electric Jewels and is sung by late great bassist Jim Clench, who sang lead on 2 tunes from our top 25 and 1 co-lead with Myles Goodwyn. We interviewed the band in the year 2000, including Clench, and we'll feature that interview in the next few months. Clench left April Wine after the Stand Back album was released in 75. In the late 70s, he joined BTO for 2 albums, Street Action and Rock and Roll Nights. He rejoined April Wine in 1992, and as mentioned before, Jim Clench died on November 3rd, 2010. He was 61. Number 11, Say Hello from 1979 and Harder Faster. the first of two from that album in our top 25, with 329 votes. Drummer Jerry Mercer gives us a gorgeous, unforgettable intro. It's also one of those tunes that sounds great on any stereo, thanks to the production of Myles Goodwyn and Nick Blagona. Number 10, Like a Lover, Like a Song from 1976 and the Whole World's Going Crazy. It received 345 votes, which is very respectable when you consider our number one song, that's coming up in a little bit, got 418 votes. An incredibly strong ballad that truly demonstrates Myles Goodwyn's amazing versatility to write strong melodies, whether they're octane fuel crashers or like this one, a beautiful melancholy tale on the transitions of love. Like a Lover, Like a Song will always go down as one of the true Myles Goodwyn April Wine classics. Number 9, Just Between You and Me from 1981 and The Nature of the Beast. Interestingly, even though this is their biggest selling album, and arguably their best, it only produced 2 songs in our top 25, even though every song on this project got quite a bit of votes. The others did well though. Crash and Burn came in at number 26, the opening track from the album, All Over Town, at number 29, and One More Time at number 36. Just Between You and Me, as far as the charts, peaked at number 22 in Canada, number 21 in the US. Number 8, You Could Have Been a Lady from 1972 and On Record. This was a huge song for the band, and probably the first time most fans ever heard them on the radio. Written by Errol Brown and Tony Wilson for Hot Chocolate, whose signature tune was You Sexy Thing from 75. Their original version from 1971 was not a US hit, but reached number 22 on the UK charts, while April Wine's rock version reached number 2 in Canada, making it their highest charting song ever. Number 7, Tonight is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love from 1975 and Stand Back. It received 368 votes. This album had more tunes in our top 10 than any other project, with 3. The other 2 are at number 5 and number 4. It's another example of how much the group evolved through the years. Even though this album had the rockers like Ooh What a Night, Don't Push Me Around, or Not For You, Not For Rock and Roll, just to name 3. It also features some powerhouse, truly big pop hits. And this one was the highest charting, peaking at number 5. Number 6, Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game from 1978 and First Glance. It received 371 votes. There have been hundreds of tunes about the perils of a career in rock and roll, including Tom Petty's Into the Great Wide Open, Turn the Page by Bob Seger, Shooting Star by Bad Company, just to name a few. If anyone knew firsthand, it was Myles Goodwyn. First Glance was the band's 7th album, and they were at least 9 years into this project when he wrote the song. There was an interesting saying circulating Canada that you could go gold and ride the bus. April Wine worked hard in the 70s. They earned it, and even though they had tough years, they did incredibly well. Though the tough side of rock and roll might have hit these guys a few times, they just kept getting up and getting the job done. I always found it interesting that this band played smaller towns much past the point where they really had to. Number 5, I Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love from 1975 and Stand Back. 374 votes out of our 11,145. It seems fitting that this tune would be in the top 5. The mid-70s was a very important point for the band, and Stand Back was not only one step forward from Electric Jewels, its predecessor, and that one was a classic, but people were starting to pay attention to Myles Goodwyn not only as a rock and ballad singer, but an incredibly gifted songwriter. This guy had tricks in his tickle trunk, and Stand Back pulled out all the stops. From 50s flavored melodies that Goodwyn always transformed into that 70s sound. Number 4, Ooh What a Night, the 5th and last one from 1975, Stand Back. 390 votes. Thanks to Saturday Night Live, it seems almost a rite of passage to have a cowbell song in your repertoire. April Wine had a few, including Drop Your Guns and Weeping Widow, but this was the biggest one. Written and sung by the late great Jim Clench, it opens with that appropriate sense of rock and roll urgency via that cowbell, and it's a highlight in any April Wine show with their rock and roll strobes. When Clench left the band, his bass replacement Steve Lang took over the vocal duties for this tune. Now Brian Greenway, who first appeared on April Wine's 1978 First Glance album, sings the song on stage. Greenway, along with Steve Lang and drummer Jerry Mercer, were all part of the Quebec band Mash McCann before joining April Wine. Number 3, Sign of the Gypsy Queen from 1981. Nature of the Beast with 395 votes. A rocker with soaring vocals from Goodwin and a tempo that's geared to give you speeding tickets. In fact, April Wine's top 4 tunes on this countdown are all rockers, written by Lawrence Hudd and featured on his debut album from 1972 where he played all the instruments. It became a Canadian hit for him 9 years earlier. Hudd has had a long, bizarre battle with government agencies in Canada via a drainage issue he had in his home in Ontario. It led to a police standoff in the summer of 2017. April Wine's version peaked at number 40 in Canada, while Hudd's original got to number 16. But judging from the response on this poll, April Wine did it best. Number 2, Roller from 1978 and First Glance, 402 votes. As mentioned earlier, the band had a hit on the Canadian charts every year from 1971 to 1982. That's an 11-year streak. But this song, interestingly, was only their second hit in the US. You Could Have Been a Lady being the first from 72. After the release of Forever For Now in 1977, the album, as we mentioned, was meant to be Myles Goodwyn's first solo album, and a project with a lot of different genres, half a dozen. First Glance was a return to no-nonsense rock for April Wine. Number 1, I Like to Rock, 1979, and the Harder Faster album with 418 votes. Only 16 votes separated our top 2 tunes. That's how close it got. The band certainly likes to rock, since the word is mentioned in no less than 10 of their tunes, most written by Myles Goodwyn. But then again, they are a rock band. I Like to Rock was the very first song on the album, and it kind of tips its hat to the Beatles' Day Tripper and the Stones' Satisfaction via their riffs played simultaneously at the end of the song. It was pure genius and amazing how everything just played together perfectly. These songs have stood the test of time because of all the members who have contributed to this band, but especially, of course, to Myles Goodwyn. Keep in mind, Myles Goodwyn has a new blues album called Myles Goodwyn and Friends of the Blues. It's being released in March, features Amos Garrett, Frank Marino, David Wilcox, Rick Derringer, among a host of others.
There you have it. I don't really present that kind of like fast rock and roll sort of broadcasting style anymore. Plus I was talking very fast. As you can tell, there was a lot of edits in there. We were just starting our YouTube channel, Rock History Book, which is our sister channel. There's the dogs are getting very bored, so I'm going to take them out. Again, let me just show you. I don't know if it'll show up. Oh, there he goes. That's when we talked to the band April Wine. I've only interviewed them once. I've interviewed some other members more times, but Myles Goodwyn on top left, Jerry Mercer, their longtime drummer, their second drummer, their longest lasting, well, not longest last, but the classic lineup drummer, Jim Clench on the bottom left, who was with them till Stand Back. Brian Greenway, who's still with them, is the only member that's still with them. Just want to show you some of this. This is a little Mad Hatter I did from The Whole World's Going Crazy. Another picture of that. I just want to show you some of that. And then before I take the dogs out, because they need to go to the bathroom, Shannon's gone to the dentist, this is some of the albums that they signed for me. Their biggest, of course, Nature of the Beast, Harder, Faster. Someone was just telling me this was filmed in Ottawa, this street guy. This is the back of Electric Jewels. Well, they're all backwards here, but I can show you the back. This is, of course, their live album. Love this picture. Myles Goodwyn says this is his favorite era of April wine. Favorite era, because they were young. And I'll present that clip later on today. I was so happy he signed Stand Back. That's the back of The Whole World's Going Crazy, or The Whole World's Going Crazy. This is Forever for Now. This is Live at the Elba Combo. They all signed it again. And First Glance. That one looks good signed because you can really see it. But anyway, Myles, Jim Clench, Jerry Mercer, and Brian Greenway signed, I think, over 20 albums for me. We were doing a big giveaway. We were doing an April Wine special that was going to be aired at a friend of mine. He had a few U.S. radio stations. He wanted an April Wine special, so I thought I'd put one together for him. And he aired it at his radio stations. I think they were in Arizona. I haven't talked to him. Irv was his name. I haven't talked to him in years. But anyway, he wanted an April Wine special. John, is that your favorite too, Stand Back? I go with Nature of the Beast and Stand Back. But I loved Harder, Faster. I love First Glance. Hot on the Heels of Love. What was it? What was the name of that song? Hot on the Wheels of Love, isn't it? Hot on the Wheels of Love. God, I love that song. The first song on that April Wine album. I had to take them out. They're all framed, but I had to take them out of the frames because of I wanted to show them to you, and the big heavy frames are over there. So thank you for everyone who joined us today. We're going to present two more things for Myles Goodwyn. We're going to present an interview that my friend Steve Burgess did with Myles. There's a lot of interesting things he says in this interview as he was recording his first album in the late 80s. I hadn't heard it. It hasn't seen the light of day since the 80s, this one interview. So I want to present it to you a little later on. And then we're going to present, in a couple of hours, reaction from the Street Heart Boys, Burton Cummings, Ian Thomas, the band Tease, who Myles Goodwyn produced. Just reaction from the rock world towards, thank you for the super chat. Thanks, Jim Coddington. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. All the proceeds we always get goes to advertising and equipment to help us grow our channel. A lot of people say, why do some of their videos get 100,000 hits and you're getting 10? Well, a lot of those other channels have more people, subscribers, but they also spend money on advertising their product, which we don't. So when someone gives us a super chat, we always put it towards advertising. We always have, and equipment as well. So thank you for joining us, Jim. That's very kind of you. Comments, Ronnie Parker, that was great, John. Thank you. Just so cool. Brad, Pede Y says, Myles, what a trooper, haha. A Canadian band. April Wine is one of the Northern Starship Heroes, still prevailed in the top 10. Justin, he says that Chad Allen died. He did. Didn't have time to do anything on him, and maybe we'll try to put something on. I certainly have a lot of quotes for Chad through different people that are in the industry. So I got to take the dogs out. I'm going to come back in a couple hours. We're going to do some of the reaction to April Wine and an old Myles Goodwyn interview. So thanks for subscribing to the channel. Share our videos if you can, especially this one. It's kind of a cool video with the top 25. Comment, like, subscribe. And if you want to join our Patreon, you get early access to all our videos. We got tons of stuff on there now. And if you want to make a donation, you can always make a PayPal donation. At the very top of the description, there's a link. Take good care of yourself. Really, I mean it. We're losing a lot of people these days. Take care of yourself. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History News.